So we're going to talk about Loki episode 1. So this is the point where if you have not watched the episode, um we're doing spoilers. So I'm gonna go through the episode. I'll recap some things along the way. I'll share some stuff. And we'll talk theories. We'll give our, review and our grades at the end. But listen, that's it. So if anybody is dipping off, I appreciate y'all. See y'all later. Come on back for the replay. I'll cut this up and put this as a separate video as well. But hey, we are here for Loki episode 1. Let me ask y'all a question just real quick. Did y'all find this episode confusing? Because there was a lot going on. There was a lot of stuff with the jumping and the going back in the past and the present and the future. Did anybody just let me know real quick? Just real quick. Did y'all find this confusing to watch? Because I'll admit, when I first watched this episode, I was a little confused. I was like, wait, what? And it took me another watch to kind of be like, oh, okay. I get it. I'm a little slow. I get it. So, just in case anybody is still confused, hopefully I will try to explain it and make some sense of it for you guys. Now, I'm not going to do some deep, Easter egg thing. Y'all know what other channels y'all can go to for that. But we're going to try and make sense of it for anybody that didn't catch it. And if if it didn't make sense, if it did make sense, we'll still talk about some other extra things along the way. All right, so where are we going with this? Let's get some of these up here. So one thing that was very interesting is the fact that we kicked it off, right? Remember the last episode, the last season, right? When we saw the big old statue of Kang the Conqueror, right? So this was a statue, and to be clear, this is actually, I believe, this is He Who Remains. There's going to be some confusion, but I'm going to use He Who Remains and Kang kind of interchangeably. They're all Kangs, but whatever. So when we saw the statue, I don't think, at the time, I thought that they had put Loki in a different timeline or in a different history, but that's not actually the case. It's not actually the case. What ended up happening was he just went into the past, and that's why they didn't recognize him. So when you go back and watch season 1 all over again, when he goes through that time door, he went into the past. Okay? So that's just keep that in mind. Anyway, so we open up with Kang's statue now in the middle of the TVA, and Agent Mobius is now running after Loki. They're doing this whole chase scene or whatever. And Mobius keeps on saying that he does not know Loki. He doesn't recognize him. Loki jumps overboard, lands onto some flying car. This kind of felt like Star Wars for a minute, the prequels. And the flying car comes in, crashes right back into the TVA. And if y'all notice, the symbol of the TVA has actually changed on the floor. Now, I don't know if this looked like a face a little bit. Maybe is that Kang's face, maybe. But what kind of stood out to me, and maybe y'all can chime in and let me know what you think. But it looks like, with those two triangles, it looks like the symbol for eternity. Usually it's more curved or whatever. But it looks like the symbol for eternity, but the sword that's going through it, I wonder if that means something. I wonder if that stands for something, So I don't know if y'all have like any interesting thoughts or theories about this, about what that sword means or what the symbol means with the TVA, but especially since they are in charge of, keeping up with time and everything. It does make sense that, that they would be having some symbolism that deals with it, but I don't know. Let me know what y'all think about the symbol. Anyway, we go back to Casey. Y'all remember Casey? He was the guy that had all them infinity gems and stuff in his stuff. But he doesn't recognize Loki. Loki's sitting here like, yo, what's up with this? And like before he knows it, Casey just snitched. immediately got to snitching, and Loki starts to slip back into the present. And once he gets back into the present, boom, now we see him right here. So this is like definitely the sign that something is off, you know. And now we notice, let's see here. We also notice now Casey recognizes him. Once Loki comes back into the present, keep in mind, this was the past, and you can tell it's the past because of Kang's statue. With Kang's statue, his presence, all of that stuff is a marker to let you know that this was in the past. They covered that up here because when Loki does his time slip, he stays in the same place. It's just time moves. So now that he's there and you see the windows are all boarded up, Casey recognizes him because now he's back in the present. So let me be clear. The present time for the TVA is all of season one. Everything we saw in season one, everything that happened, except for when Loki went through the time door at the very end. So everybody whenever they don't recognize him, that's the past. When they do recognize him and remember him, that's the present. So I'm gonna try to remind y'all about this because again, for me, it was kind of confusing and it might be confusing for other people. So right now that Casey recognizes him, he's back in the present and he's like, "Yo, where are they? What's going on?" And they give you this little clue because they show you this old crack that happened from the past, right? That's how they're giving you that clue. So let's see. Um so we go back to the present, and we do see B15 and Mobius. They're noticing all the branches in the timeline. As you recall, the branches are not a good thing. This means that there are a whole bunch of alternate timelines, things that are happening outside of the main timeline. And that is pretty much it was the job of the TVA. But because we're in the present, keep in mind what they know. Now they know B15, just a callback from season one. She got enchanted by Sylvie, so she remembers things, right? She remembers that she used to be a variant, or that she is a variant, right? She knows that she had a different life and that basically the TVA kidnapped her as a variant and made her work there. So she realizes, and of course Mobius now knows this truth as well. They both know that the TVA is literally killing trillions of people every time they kill off a branch timeline. It might look like just a little branch here, but every timeline is literally trillions, billions of people that just literally get erased and just die just like that. So B15, they notice that these branches are happening, and now they're more conscious about this. Now Mobius is kind of wrestling with how to break the news to everybody about finding out the fact that the timekeepers were fake. Keep in mind, they built the TVA under the impression that the timekeepers were real, but they weren't. They were just some Chuck E. Cheese automated dolls, some Five Nights at Freddy's type of dolls. Again, another lie from He Who Remains. Now Casey does go ahead and tell Mobius that Loki is coming back, and Mobius tries to use Miss Minutes to locate him, but she is currently unavailable. Again, don't forget, Miss Minutes is in cahoots with He Who Remains, and we don't know where Miss Minutes is. And if I, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they even called her a rogue AI. So now we actually know what she is. Like, she's artificial intelligence, right? She's almost like a little mini Ultron, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. So that's pretty, we finally know what she is a rogue AI. And so now we move forward. We see X5, who's another hunter, asking about jet skis on the timeline. And I'm guessing that this dude is just gonna be a future jerk that we just not gonna like, or whatever. So we'll just have to keep him in mind for now. Let's see. Loki is coming back. Again, he's doing the time slipping thing over and over again. Um, we see Mobius and B-15. Now they have to go to the war room because they have to discuss what's going on with the timekeepers and what's going on with the branch timelines. Like all of this stuff is a problem that needs to be dealt with. If y'all recall, this was the dude that actually pruned Mobius last time, like when Renslayer, gave the order. So that, just in case you were wondering what they were talking about. And if you notice here, Loki slipped from in time again in the same place, going to the war room. Now, notice the difference here. You see in the background, you see the whole paintings and covering up all those things with the Kang stuff or whatever. That is the present, and this is the past. Okay. So Loki does go right back to the same one. Again, notice the backgrounds. Anytime you see Kang stuff around, that's the past. Now this seems like Loki goes into the room and he finds out, he sees all these different pictures of Kang and everything. And I don't know if this is just a sign that maybe the TVA used to be the original place where all the Kangs hanged out. Maybe this is where the council of Kangs were, hence the multiple heads. Maybe this is where things went down before the multiversal war happened. Don't forget, He Who Remains, he did say that when they first started learning about the multiverse, all his different variants, they used to work together. They used to complement each other. Hey, nice hair, nice shoes. Ah, like your nose, stuff like that. So it is possible that the history of the TVA started as the original Council of Kangs, which we saw later on in Ant-Man Quantumania. That it's pretty much evolved into something way more than that. But I like what they did here with the camera work. The same way that Loki is staring at this in the past, flash right to the present. And what do you see? You see the timekeepers and everyone else just kind of hanging out there. And again, I think that this just kind of represents that the TVA was like this really big cover up for whatever Kang or He Who Remains was doing at that time. Hold on, let me just make sure. Okay. Then we get recording. So the judge is listening to a recording, and this recording is something that Loki is saying, and this is back when he came, when he came back and learned by He Who Remains. And Loki is claiming that everyone in the TVA are all variants, and that they all had their minds wiped, and that basically Sylvie has the ability to bring their memories back, and Loki, and then of course you see the timekeeper's head here. This is again a big deal. They don't know how to act. What is this person's name? General Docs or whatever. They just want to protect the sacred timeline. That's all they know how to do. That's all she knows how to do. And in her mind, that means they got to get rid of all the branch timelines. But of course, B-15 and them, like, they don't want to do that because it's killing people. Like, now that they know the truth, right? And the judge is listening to all of this. Again, they're listening to Loki's message. General Docs want to blow everything up. And Loki, in the past now, he's in the same room, but he's playing a different recording. Now, his recording is from He Who Remains. He is praising Renslayer. Remember Renslayer? He's praising her for making a difference in the multiversal war. And he said he would be proud to lead with her. So she played some critical role in ending the multiversal war. Well, I'm sure we'll find that out later. But again, remember, Loki is in the past, and that was a past He Who Remains who already conquered the TVA. So Renslayer, I'm assuming, has been in on it from the very beginning. while it seems like everyone else in the TVA is busy getting their minds wiped every single time, right? Let's see. Then we got so they're still arguing and debating. But the judge basically was like, look, forget all of this. It sounds like at the end of the day, we got to stop pruning the branches. But while they're making this decision, Loki pops right back in to the present and exposes while he's here. I have no idea why this dude was here. Like, I, I guess this was a joke or something. I have no idea why he's here. But Loki pops in from his time slipping and exposes what was in the past. He shows them what was currently covered up with the timekeeper nonsense, and that it was he who remains, and maybe even the Council of Kangs that were always running this place from the jump. And then we got this weird thing going on here. Do y'all know what the hell's going on with this? Like, I don't like what is going on with General Docs and X5? Like, are they is this a weird relationship that they in, or is this like mother daughter or like mother son type of thing? Is it a paternal thing? I'm just saying you're not going up to your commanding officer like that. I'm just what did y'all think was going on with them here? Like, was it I hope it's paternal and maternal. I hope it's that. I hope. But it definitely was weird. And yeah, come on, Disney. Don't be getting too weird on us now. I know y'all want to be woke and all, but let's not get that woke now. Let's chill out. Anyway, now again, keep in mind we're in the present here. Loki explains to Mobius what happened at the end of time. He told him about He Who Remains, and he warned that a multiversal war is coming. He talks about how He Who Remains was running things and why Mobius can't remember any of it. Mobius said that it was impossible, for time travel to happen in the TVA. And obviously, Loki keeps on time slipping. So like it is possible, that's clearly a lie. Um, and he tried to call Miss Minutes, but Loki stopped him from doing that because he was like, "Yo, like, no, we can't trust her because she's also working with He Who Remains." So it was interesting to see this time slipping and stuff because it did kind of look similar to what was going on with Ant-Man in Quantum Mania. We did see him in the Quantum Storm where basically every possibility that could exist existed at the same time. And because time worked differently, he was able to like see those possibilities. Now we'll get to it a little bit later as to what's actually going on with Loki. But it seems like a similar thing of time displacement is happening with him. But in order to fix this whole time slipping thing, because it's clearly a bigger issue for them, Mobius takes Loki down to RNA and they meet Ouroboros or Obi, played by Ki Hugh Kwan. And I gotta say, he was definitely one of my favorites. This was probably one of the best castings they've done. He was so delightful, so funny. Definitely enjoyed him. And his, just all of the banter. The writing was perfect. He'd be like, "Oh, Mobius, it's so good to see you again." And Mobius was trying to play it off and just be like, "Oh yeah, remember that time I came?" He's like, "No, I don't remember that." But like he never gets mad. He never gets mad about nothing. He's just kind of like, it is what it is. Happy to see y'all. So I really, really enjoyed his character. I thought he was really funny. But as they're talking, Loki ends up time slipping again, but this time to the past. And now that he's in the past, he's do I have a picture of him? Yes. Okay, so he time slipped into the past, and now he's talking to the old version of Obi, right? So the old version doesn't have glasses. Now this allows the old version of Obi to have a conversation with Loki, and that actually informs the present day version of Obi. So as Obi is talking to Mobius, he's starting to remember things that Loki told him in the past. Now we're seeing all this happen at the same time, but this is what's going on with this time dilation or whatever. So Obi tells he basically tells Loki that he's gonna need a temporal extractor. And this temporal extractor, in case y'all forgot, in like the first episode of Loki season one, they have these things called temporal auras that was basically like your fingerprint in time. Everybody has a very distinct one. All of Loki's variants have their own distinct one. And right now, apparently, his aura is all over the place, all over time, spread out. So, what they need is basically a temporal extractor. So, what this extractor is going to do is take all the little versions of Loki, this version, and suck it all into one. And that's going to bring him back and make him stop slipping. If that makes sense, I hope it did, because that's really the best. That's the best we got. But Loki in the past obviously is like, yo, we don't have this temporal thing. Can you make one? And Obi was like, yeah, cool, no problem. I got it. And Loki was like, all right, cool. Can you save this for a couple hundred years for when my friend needs it? And Obi was like, all right, I got you. Matter of fact, bam, there it is. It's right there. So now that they have the temporal extractor and everything, this is a way for them to go ahead but and fix Loki. But one other rule that was stated was that he's gonna have to prune himself in order to have this whole thing work. Now, the reason why he needs to prune himself is because, again, Loki, okay, let's maybe explain it a different way. Because Loki went to the end of time, right? When he went to He Who Remains, that was a place completely out of time. Now, that already is a contradiction, because we had learned, or at least we were told, that the TVA already was outside of time, right? Or that time just worked differently there. So that was already conflicting. But the fact that Loki was outside of time, he was at the end of time, right? So time was done where he was in that big citadel with, He Who Remains. Coming back into the timeline, I guess his aura split up. So he had a piece of him in the past, a piece of him in the present, a piece of him in the present, all at the same time. All at the same time. Everything was happening, right? So by pruning himself, it takes him out of the timeline completely, because he would go to the void, but that temporal extractor would like grab him at the precise time and he'd be okay. Now, in case anybody else is even more confused, Marvel had already spent all this time with Infinity War, with Endgame, telling us about time travel, saying that, like, oh, well, it's not like Back to the Future. And if you go back in time, you're really causing a parallel branch and all this stuff. But now they are using Back to the Future rules. So, in case you didn't realize that, the TVA is clearly on a linear timeline, okay? Because there are different ways to go about time. You could do the what we've seen with the main sacred timeline, which is if you do something and you go off the path, boom, it's going to cause an extra branch. But now, because they're on the TVA, everything is on the same timeline. So if you're in the present and you go to the past still informs the present. If you go to the future, like, it's all, everything is connected on the same timeline. There are no branching, there's no branch alternate timelines in the TVA. All right. So again, I hope that makes sense for anybody. Um, but this is going to have some more implications because of the fact that the time works differently here. And I'll tell you, that'll have an implication at the end of this episode. I'll tell you all about that in a second. So we got the extractor. He has to prune himself. And now they have to deal with this other issue because somebody didn't pay the light bill or whatever at the TVA. And it is a problem. Oh wait, there was something else. Uh, Back to Future Rules. Oh yes, so something else to consider. If it is true that the TVA is on this linear timeline, this makes more sense as to why Renslayer would be able to wipe people's minds. Now, if y'all remember, Mobius had already talked about how his mind had been wiped, or I'm sorry, he didn't talk about it, but it appeared as though his mind had already been wiped before. Um, it was back when he was in the office with Renslayer and he was having his drink, and that circle was left on the table. And she was like, "Oh yeah, they're all from you." And he was like, "I don't remember that." So there could be some time hopping going on, maybe even with her. I mean, think about it like this. Where did she go? Remember when she left at the end of season 1 in Loki, where did she go? And maybe it's not where, but when. Did she go back further in the past? Maybe she went back to the point where He Who Remains is still around, and she's like, "All right, we got to fix things." So don't be surprised if the He Who Remains version comes back, because and he did tell that to Sylvie too. He was like, "Man, whatever, you can kill me now. It don't matter. I'll be back." And it's probably because Renslayer keeps him coming back. So just theory, something to think about. Just something to think about. Anyway, so now that they know that the TVA is a problem, now they have to go deal with the temporal loom, and the temporal loom is basically overloading. Um, and it is something that they have to fix. Obi says that basically the temporal loom is the heart of the TVA, and it's where raw time is refined into physical time. Now, Marvel, what the hell does that even mean? What does that even mean? What are you talking about? Like, y'all just, I'm a sci-fi nerd. I love sci-fi. But I felt like Marvel was just pulling stuff out their butt at this point. Y'all just sitting here talking about like, oh, so there's all this time, but then we got this machine that takes all the time and makes the time into one timeline, and it turns it into physical time. Like what? So it wasn't physical before? Like what do you I'm just these writers, these writers. I'm just saying, it's a little weird. Anyway, as you can see here in the middle, this big machine takes all these different strands of time and it weaves it just like a real loom that weaves fabric together. It's making it into one, but because there are so many branches happening now with the timeline, because that is an actual issue, too many threads are going into this machine, which is causing it to overload. Okay, so just think of it like that. It's too many threads. It can't, do the same thing that it used to do. It's too much. So Obi tells Mobius that he's gonna have to go he's gonna have to go outside the blast doors to extract Loki before it's too late. By the way, pay attention. He did write the word skin right there on that monitor. And Obi also tells Loki that, yo, you got this little timer, and this is going to let you know when you need to prune yourself because time is short. And he was like, yo, you only got about like an hour left. And then it was like, nah, it's like it was only 5 minutes. So I actually kind of like that joke. That was pretty funny. But you know, Loki, before he can like really give any parting words or anything, um, he already time slipped out of there and he was gone. So now they got to get to work. So Mobius gets a suit, he starts to go outside, he's got to try and find Loki. Now Loki ended up going into the future, right? So now he's seeing the TVA. You can see the branches here, it's at critical mass. I think, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong or if you think differently, I think Loki only went a couple minutes into the future. I don't think he went that far into the future. Because when he went into the room, he saw the same monitor with dust that Mobius had just touched and just wrote the word skin on. So I think he just went a couple minutes into the future at that point. But time is ticking for for Loki. We see here that this is a better picture of the loom. We see all these branches still getting, overloaded, and the machine is not working, and Mobius is out there trying to, get this all together to get Loki back. Now it's time. The timer has gone off, and Loki has got to find a now again, he's in the future. He's got to find a stick to like basically prune himself. He's looking around, and all of a sudden a phone starts to ring. Now, I don't know why the phone was ringing, but I have a very good feeling that we need to remember this. So don't forget the collect call that somebody was making. It's kind of random that during a crisis, somebody's calling that. So I think it's more important than we might be assuming. But anyway, as he's walking towards the phone, I think he's really starting to give up. He's really kind of thinking to himself, like, man, whatever, it's a done. I'm done for. Maybe I'll answer this call and then I'll just die. Um, and we also see Obi closing the doors, the blast doors. It's time. He can't give Loki any more time. And as Loki walks closer to the door, the elevator door opens, and boom, there goes Sylvie inside. And while she's inside, we also know that the Docs, General Docs, is sending all these troops to go prune the timelines and to go find Loki. But while Loki sees her, she says something like, "Oh, there you are." And right before he can respond, boom, Loki gets pruned. And the moment he gets pruned, the extractor works. He finally gets in. He's good. He's safe now with more Mobius. And again, the rest of the TVA folks, they are ready to go and continue their mission to kill all those other timelines and prune them all. Now, I hope y'all actually saw it and didn't miss it, but there was a post-credit scene, and it was with Sylvie. So we go to a branch timeline, this time in Braxton, Oklahoma, 1982. So again, this is not the main timeline; it's in one of the alternate ones. And now we got our first look at, our second look of Sylvie, and this is fresh after she killed He Who Remains. So 9 times out of 10, she probably has his temp pad, which is probably like the best temp pad that they have. So she can go wherever she wants. She can go on any timeline that she wants at this point. And she stopped in at a McDonald's, and while she's at McDonald's, she's looking around. She's seeing people have a good time. She's seeing family and friends and everybody loving it. They loving it. And she's just like, yeah, give me that McRib. I want the McRib. Extra pickles, hold the onions, little extra sauce. I'm going to stay right here. All right. So that was the end of the first episode. Now, there is one thing that I think some of y'all might have this question, because I know I had this question as well. Where is it at? Who the hell did this? Who the hell pruned Loki? Because keep in mind, it was a crisis. Everybody was running around. What is going on? So that is the big question, right? Who pruned Loki? Now, I'm going to give y'all my little quick theory about this and who it could be. And why it needs to happen, right? So I believe when it comes to who pruned Loki, it could be a couple people. It could be Mobius, right? Keep in mind, I do believe that this was only a couple minutes into the future. So maybe Mobius was running around and he got him. I don't know. Maybe. Um, or maybe it was Obi. Maybe Obi found a way to find, Loki and prune him. Maybe it was B-15. I don't know. Maybe. But I think even though they're like possible candidates of who could have pruned them, because they were the only ones that knew why Loki, like what Loki was doing. They were the only ones. But I don't think that they were it. I think that the biggest clue that we have is what Sylvie said. When Sylvie came through on the elevator, the first thing she said was, "There you are." So if she said, "There you are," that means that either she was looking for Loki, or because they were in the future. So she was either looking for Loki in the future, or Loki was already with her. So if future Loki is already with Sylvie, then our present Loki, who's now in the future, probably got pruned by future Loki. Keep in mind, Back to the Future rules. And I think this might have caused a potential time paradox because future Loki had to prune himself in order to even exist in the first place. There would be no future Loki if that Loki from the present that traveled to the future didn't get pruned. Confusing, maybe. So I would not be surprised if the big reveal later on, like in the last, I don't know, episode 6 or whatever, is we see Loki going back in time to the TVA, and he literally has to do that to himself, because if he doesn't, he would not exist. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one to prune himself. But if y'all think otherwise, if you have a better idea, please let me know. I'd be very, very interested to hear it. Um, but I think the other question is like, when it comes to this episode, one other question I have is like, why was he time slipping in the first place? Now I get it. Sylvie, maybe because she has that super temp pad, maybe that's why she's not time slipping. And I'm wondering, was the time slip just a gimmick? Was it only something to give us something? Was it only something done to give us some entertainment for this first episode, or does the time slipping have a deeper meaning? Because again, they made a big deal about how time slipping should not happen in the TVA. So I'm kind of wondering if there's a deeper meaning with the time slipping. I don't know. Um And I like the fact that, I understood Sylvie going to the McDonald's. I thought that was just a way for her to finally be at peace. She'd been on the run, jumping from different timelines and stuff, living in apocalypses and stuff like that. She's finally able to, just chill, and be like, "Oh, y'all happy here? Y'all having a good time? McDonald's might be the joint." Okay, but anyway, that's it for the episode, guys. This is the point where I need to know, what did y'all rate it? What is your rating on the scale from 0 to 10 for episode 1 season 2 of Loki? While you guys talk about that, I will give you my thoughts. So I man, the writing was interesting. I'm giving them points for creativity. It did get a little heady though for me. I mean, time travel is already messy. It's already messy because it's fictional. I just I'm gonna be more lenient with this because I think there are things that we just don't know yet. I like the idea of jumping from the past to the present. It was a little confusing, but I like the fact that it could potentially set up a nice payoff later on. So I do like that for now. It's just up to them to stick to the landing. Um, Good acting, not a lot of action, but at the same time, a good setup, I guess, for what's to come. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and give this an 8 out of 10. Um, Good start. I thought it was a good start. I'm intrigued. I want to see where this goes. I need to see, what are we doing next? So I can't wait to see more after this. So I will go with an 8 out of 10. Let's see what the people think though. We got an 8, we got a 10, 6 or 7, 8, 7, 10, 7, 10 out of 10. All right. Hold on, did I get you? Yeah, 10 out of 10. 8, 8, 8. All right. 9, 8, 8, 7, 8, 8.5, 10, 10, 5.5. Damn, you didn't like it that much? 10, 9, 10, 5.5, 8, 8.5. Okay, cool, cool, cool. 9, 8.9, 9. Who else we get? 8, 10, 8, and 8. All right, cool, cool. So it seems like overall we liked it. It seems like it was definitely something more interesting than not. What you got here, Jetta? What'd you say here? Did you notice the door? It was similar to the X-Men door. Which door are we talking about? Are we talking about the one from which one are you talking about? Is it this one? Oh, you talking about the blast doors. Yeah, okay, yeah, interesting. Okay, sure. I'm not opposed to it. Now I'm not now. Oh, the basement door. Yes. Okay, gotcha. Yes, I do recall that. Now I am not gonna go running with this, and I would not recommend anybody go running just because you see a door with an X does not mean that it's X-Men. Maybe it is. More likely it's not. I don't think the X-Men are chilling in the TVA. But um, but yes, now that you bring it up, I do notice that similarity. Now that you bring it to my attention. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I just don't want people getting their hopes up. That's all. We're not gonna do the Mephisto thing again. Okay, we're not gonna do that. All right, guys. That was it. That was it for the episode. I think we liked it. I think does this format work? Are we going to um stick with Fridays for the Loki one? I can add it to the last of the live if that works for you guys. We can keep doing that. But anyway, I think we're all caught up. Yes, I think we are. All right, guys. That's it. It's past my bedtime already. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.